This video is proudly sponsored by Newtype. Tools, accessories, model kits, these guys have it. Hop over to newtypeshq.com and use promo code Otaku for 10% off on your next purchase. Hey, what's going on, dudes and dudettes, and welcome back to another exciting build from the good folks from Kotobukiya. So why don't we get things started with the 1/12 scale Megaman X MAX Armor from the popular game franchise Megaman X. And without further ado, let's get to it. Welcome back, my dudes and dudettes, to another exciting build from the good folks from Kotobukiya. Now, first and foremost, I am a fan of Mega Man. I absolutely love the Blue Bomber, and I was super psyched to hear last year that they actually made a proper Mega Man model kit. Now, when I got this guy, I was super excited to install LED lights in every possible area I could think of to make this guy look really cool. But in that time, I learned a lot of things that just didn't work. For example, the wires for the 2 feet end up stripping and breaking, and the main Mega Buster and the helmet were the only two key areas. Plus, there was the issue of cable management. So this time around, I'm going to take what I learned from that kit and implement it on this one to make things look a little bit more cleaner, while at the same time keeping things a little bit more professional looking. So what can we expect from this model kit? You get a beautiful front and back side, while at the same time giving you a good glimpse of weapon accessories, which is the Z-Saber and the Mega Buster, and a handful of open and closed hands. And on the other side, you also get 3 interchangeable faceplates for Mega Man to make him look either angry, happy, or just, I don't know, I guess he kind of looks constipated on one angle, but who cares? So, what can we expect inside the box? As always, you're happily greeted with the very first page giving you a brief history on how Mega Man X was created for the Super NES or the Super Famicom back in the early 90s, while at the same time giving you a brief glimpse of more action poses that you can put this little guy in. Now, what sets this model kit apart from the original Mega Man X kit that came out last year is the abundancy of armor pieces and redesign of the Mega Man Buster, but that isn't the only thing that's different. This kit actually comes with the iconic Z-Saber that is actually used by Zero himself in the original Mega Man X video game. I believe it was Mega Man X2? Right? Yeah, it should be Mega Man X2. Now, one thing that's really unusual about this model kit is it has 2 different forms of hilts. There's the one that's already pre-sculpted, while the other one is like a much thicker and cylinder tube that has a housing to install an LED light that doesn't come with the kit. And the closest thing I could find close to this LED unit is like one of those fishing lures that you use for fishing. Now, I do remember having one, here it is. I do remember using this guy back in the early days when I was learning how to install LED lights into my Gundams. But there are some drawbacks with this particular light. One, it's not super bright, and at the same time, you only get like one shot to really use this LED light for your model kits, and that's pretty much it. Now, after doing a closer evaluation on the one that I have, I noticed that the one in the instruction manual is a little bit more shorter, while the one I have is a lot more elongated. The tips are very similar, but they're not, and after trying it myself, they don't fit correctly inside the cylindrical tube. So the best way to resolve this issue is to actually purchase this LED light directly from Kotobukiya themselves, or look for a Japanese fisherman lure light to make this issue get resolved. So what else can we expect from this delicious bouquet of clear runners? Right off the bat, you get these beautiful dark red pieces for the main jewel for the helmet, a handful of clear pieces for the side of the ear cuffs, and at the same time a V-fin for the front part of the helmet, 2 clear pieces for the Mega Man Buster, and at the same time for the jewel in the chest, and a clear red piece for one of the faceplate's mouth. On top of that, you get this beautiful color separation between a sky blue, a medium blue, and something that looks close to like a neon orange. I absolutely dig these colors. They look really cool for this little guy. On top of that, you get a handful of like runner pieces, which are like the poly caps for the wrists and the feet, a handful of gray pieces for the inner frame, as well as a good hefty amount of yellow pieces for the armor placements itself, while at the same time you get a good assortment of white armor pieces to complete this model kit, as well as a small assortment of neon orange pieces, more polycaps, and the ever so popular 3 interchangeable faces that are actually very well sculpted and nicely well painted. And from first glance, it looks like the face sculpting has not changed much from the original Mega Man X model kit that came out last year, so that's totally fine. You also get this weird hip section that's already been pre-painted, but I guess that's fine if you want to do a straight up build. Now before I get started doing any kind of custom painting, I need to really tackle 3 key areas that are definitely catching my eye the most. The one and most importantly is the Z Saber. Now I don't want to mess this up since I only have one shot to make this kit look right. So I'm going to be hitting that area with 2 metallic paints, which is going to be silver and gold, while at the same time making the feet at the very bottom a nice flat steel black to really make them pop and really reflective. But the one area that's definitely drawing my attention is these transparent blue pieces. They're not really dark, they're not really heavy on the transparent spectrum. In fact, they are so transparent you can actually see at the bottom part of the sole of the feet. So to help mitigate that issue, I'm going to be hitting that area with the clear blue first, and then once that sets and dry, and then I'm going to apply either a dark or a bright silver paint behind that, so that way not only it looks transparent, but at the same time there's a little bit more dimension to it. But first thing I need to tackle first is the actual thruster. So I need to drill a very, very big hole down the middle section of this piece, while at the same time making sure all these pieces are properly housed. Now, I don't need to actually apply any like clear paint on those particular thrusters because I'm going to pop an actual blue LED light behind it. So there's no issues for me to hit it with a clear blue. So enough about that. Let's get building. So just as I was getting these pieces ready to be painted, I wanted to share with you dudes and dudettes the difference between a fishing lure LED light versus an Evans Designs LED light. Now when you plug this guy in, it doesn't look too bad, you know, it hits the right spots, illuminates it the way that it's designed to, but as you can clearly see here, you need to be in a relatively dark room to make it look really cool. However, that all changes when you plug in an Evans Design chip LED light with a 3 full power, and this guy illuminates like a Star Wars lightsaber. I absolutely love it. Sorry. Had to geek out for a second. Alright, my dudes and dudettes, as this video is wrapping up, I want to share with you guys my thoughts and impressions about this model kit. So first and foremost, I absolutely love building these Mega Man model kits. They're an absolute treat to build, and plus it finally feels cool to actually have like a Mega Man model kit in my office. It looks really cool. But then there are some noticeable issues with this model kit, especially when it comes to installing LED lights. And the biggest issue, which I kept getting a lot of comments, is how come you're not covering the seam lines? Can you actually cover up the seam lines? Is there a heavy amount of seam lines? Can you take the seam lines on the date? Is the seam lines married? Is there a prenuptial agreement with the seam lines and its government? It was just a very annoying question I kept getting asked a lot. And then me personally, I don't care much for seam lines. Not one bit. If the designers didn't implement that feature there, it would definitely make things difficult to install LED lights, because there's always the risk of either a wire stripping or breaking or an LED light failing. So I just pretty much opt out not even covering the seam lines. They just don't bother me at all. Now, if the situation was reversed, say if it was like a 1/20th scale or like a really big model kit, say like the Macross Grimoire kit I built last year, or the USS Enterprise E, A, or D, that definitely requires you to cover up a lot of seam lines so you can lock in the areas from preventing light bleeding, then yeah, I would definitely do it. But for a kit this small, it's not really needed. Not needed at all. But I know there's a handful of you dudes and dudettes that really want that particular nice, clean, polished look, the way how you see it on the promotional art for the video game. I get it. But for me personally, I just don't care. I build the kits for the sake of just enjoying them. I build the kits for you dudes and dudettes to enjoy watching, while at the same time I am learning, experimenting, and growing as a builder. And it's just so much fun to really learn from my mistakes. So this is something that doesn't bother me, not one bit. But as the kit overall, you get great articulation, you get a handful of posable hands, and at the same time, you get a lot of range of action poses. My only complaint with this kit is I wish it included an action base, but you have to purchase that separately, which is like 15 bucks. But other than that, is it really worth the 70 bucks? If you're a Mega Man fan, get it. If not, don't bother, wait for the Zero kit to come out. I'm telling you, I think that's definitely way more exciting to build than this one. This one was fun, but I want to build that Zero kit so bad, because that is definitely the one character that everybody knows and loves. And with that being said, thank you dudes for watching this video. If you like this video, please thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you dudes and dudettes on the next video. Later.